You know that feeling, don't you? That hollow ache that sits just beneath your ribs, whispering truths you're not ready to hear. It's the feeling that comes when you realize you've been pouring yourself into someone who was never meant to hold you. And tonight we're going to sit with that feeling. We're going to let it speak. Because somewhere in your story, there's a person who took your love and gave you scraps in return. Someone who saw your light and decided it existed to serve their darkness. And you, beautiful, generous you stayed. You stayed because leaving felt like admitting failure. You stayed because empty felt scarier than depleted. You stayed because no one ever taught you that your heart was not designed to be a charity case. But here's what I want you to understand. What Carl Jung understood when he peered into the deepest chambers of the human psyche. Your relationships are mirrors, every single one. They reflect back not just who you are, but who you believe you deserve to be. And when you find yourself clinging to someone who treats your love like background noise, you're not seeing their truth. You're seeing your shadow. Jung called it the shadow, that part of yourself you've banished to the basement of your consciousness. The part that whispers, you're too much, or you're not enough, or you should be grateful for whatever love shows up. Your shadow is the curator of every wound you've never healed, every harsh word you believed about yourself, every moment you chose their comfort over your own truth. And here's the devastating beauty of it. You can't see your shadow directly. It hides in the spaces between your thoughts, in the pauses before you speak, in the way you shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for your wholeness. But you can see it in them, in the way they dismiss your dreams, minimize your pain, or take your devotion for granted. They become the living embodiment of every cruel thing you've ever believed about yourself. This is why letting go feels impossible. You're not just releasing them. You're confronting the parts of yourself that believed you deserved so little. You're facing the shadow that convinced you their half-hearted love was better than your wholehearted solitude. But what if I told you something revolutionary? What if I told you that your shadow isn't your enemy, it's your teacher? Every relationship that drained you, every person who took more than they gave, every moment you swallowed your truth to keep the peace, they were all classroom sessions in recognizing your own worth. Jung believed in something he called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, not who the world needs you to be. And individuation requires you to befriend your shadow, to stop projecting your unloved parts onto others, and start owning the magnificent, terrifying totality of yourself. When you stayed with someone who didn't see you, you were projecting your own inability to see yourself. When you accepted their emotional unavailability, you were reflecting your own disconnection from your needs. When you made excuses for their behavior, you were practicing the same self-abandonment you'd been perfecting since childhood. This is hard to hear. I know it is, because it means you weren't just a victim of their dysfunction. You were a willing participant in your own diminishment. But here's why this matters. If you created this pattern, you can uncreate it. The first step isn't anger, though anger will come, and when it does, let it burn clean and bright. The first step is recognition. You have to see the pattern before you can break it. You have to understand that every time you chose their approval over your authenticity, you were teaching them how little you valued yourself. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine your life as a house. For months, maybe years, you've been leaving the front door wide open while you focused all your attention on someone standing in your garden. Someone who criticized your flowers, complained about your hospitality, and never once offered to help tend what you'd grown. You exhausted yourself running back and forth, bringing them water, shade, comfort, while your own rooms grew cold and neglected. The work isn't just closing the door. The work is walking through your own house and remembering what you built there, rediscovering the rooms you abandoned, the dreams you postponed, the parts of yourself you silenced to keep them comfortable. And here's what Jung knew that most people miss. This isn't a one-time decision. This is a daily practice of choosing yourself. Every morning you wake up and decide, will I honor my truth today, or will I bend it to fit someone else's comfort? Will I trust my intuition, or will I override it to keep the peace? Will I speak my needs, or will I swallow them to avoid conflict? The person you need to let go of isn't just them. It's the version of yourself that believed love required self-erasure. The you that thought your needs were negotiable. The you that confused intensity with intimacy, chaos with chemistry, their pain with your purpose. You're going to feel empty at first. Of course you are. When you stop pouring your energy into someone else's void, you're going to notice how much space that created in your life. That space might feel terrifying, like a vast echoing cavern where their drama used to live. But here's what I need you to understand. That space isn't empty. It's available. Available for your dreams to stretch their wings. Available for relationships that nourish instead of drain. Available for the person you're becoming to take up residence. Available for synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences Jung wrote about, to start appearing in your life. Because when you're no longer spending all your energy managing someone else's emotional weather, you become available to notice the magic that was always there, waiting for you to have eyes to see it. The hardest part isn't the leaving. The hardest part is the staying gone. Because they'll come back. Oh, they always come back. Not because they've changed, not because they finally see your worth, but because they can feel the shift in your energy. They can sense that you're no longer available for the same old dance, and that scares them. So they'll love bomb you with the intensity you always craved. Show up with apologies that sound like everything you wanted to hear. Promise to be different this time. And part of you, the part that remembers how it felt to be chosen, even poorly, will want to believe them. But here's your litmus test. Has anything fundamental shifted in their relationship with themselves? Because people don't change their patterns until they change their consciousness. And if their consciousness was capable of that level of transformation, you would have seen evidence of it long before they felt you slipping away. This is where your intuition becomes your most trusted ally. Jung believed that intuition was the voice of your unconscious wisdom, the part of you that knows truths your conscious mind isn't ready to accept. Your intuition has been trying to protect you all along. Every red flag you rationalized away, every gut feeling you overrode with hope, every moment you felt off but couldn't explain why, that was your intuition, begging you to listen. Learning to trust your intuition is like learning a new language. At first, it's just whispers and hunches, easily drowned out by the noise of what you think you should feel. But as you practice listening, as you start honoring those subtle nudges, your intuitive voice grows stronger. It becomes a compass that points not toward what's familiar or comfortable, but toward what's true. And here's the miraculous thing about truth. It's incredibly efficient. When you start living from your truth instead of your trauma, when you start making decisions from your wisdom instead of your wounds, your life begins to reorganize itself around what actually serves you. The right opportunities appear, the right people show up, the right doors open, not because the universe suddenly cares about you more, but because you've stopped spending all your energy swimming upstream against your own nature. I know there are nights when the loneliness feels like it might swallow you whole, when the silence in your space feels heavier than the chaos they brought, when you wonder if choosing yourself was just a beautiful mistake that's going to leave you alone forever. And in those moments, I need you to remember something. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection from yourself, from others, from meaning. Solitude is the spaciousness of being at home with yourself. Solitude is where you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. It's where your creativity lives, where your dreams recharge, where your soul gets to speak without editing itself for someone else's comfort. The people who drain you, they're allergic to solitude. They can't be alone with themselves because they haven't done the work of becoming someone they enjoy being with. So they surround themselves with chaos, drama, and people who will focus on fixing them instead of building their own lives. When you refuse to play that role anymore, when you become someone who can sit peacefully with yourself, you automatically become unavailable for that dynamic. And that's when the magic happens. That's when you start attracting people who have also done their work, who show up as whole people instead of walking wounds looking for someone to heal them. That's when relationships become about mutual growth instead of mutual dysfunction, when love becomes a celebration of who you are instead of a constant negotiation of who you might become. The person you're becoming, the one emerging from the ashes of who you had to be to survive that relationship, she's been waiting for you your whole life. She's the one who knows her worth without needing external validation. She's the one who can hold her own hand through difficult emotions instead of reaching for someone else to manage them. She's the one who sees red flags as information instead of challenges to overcome. She's the one who understands that love isn't supposed to cost you your peace, that healthy relationships add to your life instead of consuming it, that the right person for you will never require you to abandon yourself to keep them, but becoming her, stepping into that version of yourself, requires you to grieve who you used to be. You have to mourn the person who believed she wasn't enough, who thought love was supposed to hurt, who confused drama with passion and anxiety with excitement. You have to say goodbye to the part of yourself that was so hungry for love that you accepted crumbs and called them meals. This grief is sacred. It's not pathetic or weak or something to hurry through. It's the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself cry for the years you spent investing in someone who was never going to choose you the way you chose them. Let yourself rage at the opportunities you missed while you were pouring your energy into their emptiness. Let yourself ache for the version of love you thought you were building together. And then, when the storm passes, and it will pass, let yourself notice what remains. Your creativity, stronger for having been ignored. Your intuition, sharper for having been suppressed. Your capacity for love, deeper for having been tested. Your strength, more authentic for having been forged in the fire of choosing yourself when it would have been easier to disappear. This is what Jung called the process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not without shadow, but integrated. You stop trying to be who you think you should be and start being who you actually are. You stop abandoning yourself to avoid abandonment and start showing up so fully to your own life that other people's rejection becomes irrelevant. The truth is, letting go of someone who never deserved you isn't really about them at all. It's about you deciding that your energy is precious, that your love is sacred, that your life is not a supporting role in someone else's story. It's about you choosing to direct your attention toward what's growing instead of what's dying, toward what's possible instead of what's painful, toward who you're becoming instead of who you used to be. And when you make that choice, really make it, not just think about making it, everything changes. Your relationship with yourself transforms from critic to companion. Your relationship with others shifts from desperate to discerning. Your relationship with life evolves from survival to creation. You stop asking, "How can I make them love me?" and start asking, "How can I love myself so completely that their opinion becomes irrelevant?" You stop wondering, "What's wrong with me that they can't see my worth?" and start declaring, "I see my worth, and that's enough." You stop begging for scraps of attention from people who have nothing to give and start creating a life so beautiful that you fall in love with your own existence. This is what it means to come home to yourself. This is what it means to let go. Not with bitterness or resentment, but with the quiet dignity of someone who finally understands that you were never meant to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for your soul. Tonight, as you sit with these words, as you feel them landing in the places that have been waiting to heal, I want you to make yourself a promise. Promise that you'll stop making your love contingent on someone else's ability to receive it. Promise that you'll stop abandoning yourself to avoid being abandoned. Promise that you'll trust the whispers of your intuition over the shouts of your fear. Promise that you'll give yourself the same devotion you've been giving to people who couldn't even see it. Promise that you'll build a life so aligned with your truth that settling becomes impossible. Promise that you'll choose yourself again and again until choosing yourself becomes as natural as breathing. Because here's what I know about you, even if we've never met. You have survived every difficult day of your life so far. You have walked through fires that would have consumed people with less courage. You have loved with a depth that most people will never access. You have given pieces of your soul to people who didn't even realize they were sacred. And now it's time to give that same fierce, transformative love to yourself. It's time to become the person you needed when you were breaking apart in that relationship. It's time to be your own hero, your own safe harbor, your own greatest love story. The person who never deserved you is living their life, probably repeating the same patterns with someone new. But you get to write a completely different ending. You get to become living proof that it's never too late to choose yourself, never too late to start over, never too late to create a life that feels like home. So close your eyes and feel it, that subtle shift happening in your chest. That's your soul remembering its own worth. That's your heart preparing to love itself back to life. That's the sound of you finally, beautifully, courageously choosing you. And that choice, my dear one, changes everything.